Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our theatrically themed webinar, A New Hope for B2B, the Rise of Contact Level Orchestration. Seems fitting, given that we're at the beginning of summer, and this is summer blockbuster season. My name is Doug Mady. I'm the Director of Communications at Influ2. And obviously, this is a Star Wars themed webinar. And I thought to make sure everyone's awake, everyone's with us here, I'd ask a Star Wars themed question that we have in the chat. There we go. I'm seeing Baby Yoda, which is great. Who knows the date of the first Star Wars, Episode 4? When did that premiere? And try not to do Google, please. I mean, Google knows what it is, or your AI of choice. 74 is the year. How about a month and a day? I mean, 77 is the year. We'll let that play out a little bit. Good to see everyone's May 4th. There it is. Hold on. Citranash, you got it. May 25th, 1977, the premiere of A New Hope, Episode 4. So, all right, let's continue on here. A little bit of housekeeping at the top. We've got 60 minutes scheduled for today. We might end a little short, but just consider that if you're staying with us here. This session is, of course, being recorded, as all webinars are. So if you do have to jump early, you'll be able to see the full recording afterwards. However, you might want to stay, and I'll make a point of that in a second here, because those who stay get a chance to win something cool. Quick note, we do have a chat and a Q&A tab here on the webinar. So the chat, like I just said, you can throw in there, like we were doing the date of Star Wars. The Q&A is open, though. If you have a question throughout this webinar at all, we have a team of people that will be answering questions live as they come, but use the Q&A tab, not the chat tab. And then finally, as an incentive for those who are hanging with us throughout the entirety of this showing here, stick with the movie theme, we're going to do a raffle towards the end. So about 10 minutes towards the end of the webinar. If you are still on, we are going to take all the names of folks that are still watching. We're going to randomize those names, and we're going to give away a Millennium Falcon Lego set to one of the lucky attendees. So thanks again for joining us. Today, obviously, we are talking about contact level orchestration. And to continue to kick things off, I'm going to throw a poll up here. I'm going to open the poll now. The question is, what's the biggest dark side of your current go-to-market orchestration? I'm just going to share it up there for a second as people start to get into this. Let me see. If I stop sharing, I believe the poll will still run and will just get me back to my slides here. So with that, let's take a moment to introduce the presenters today. Guys?
I'm Dmitry Lisitsky. I'm CEO and co-founder of Influ2. Great to see everyone.
And I'm Kelvin G. I am Principal Analyst at Forrester Research, and I cover marketing programs, ABM, and I evaluate marketing technologies such as Influ2.
Okay. Well, guys, thanks so much. Kelvin, I believe it's over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Hi, everyone. When we started planning this webcast, I was asked what my favorite movie was so we could theme this webcast to it. And for me, it was Star Wars. And part of the reason Star Wars has always stayed with me is that I still remember what it felt like when it first came out. In this photo, you can see the long lines outside the Coronet Theater in San Francisco back in 1977, where I waited for hours to see it. Now, this just wasn't another movie opening. For me, it felt like a cultural event, a cultural phenomenon. And there was a reason for that. Star Wars was full of breakthroughs. It changed what audiences expected from movies. It pushed visual effects forward with motion control camera work. It had dynamic miniature photography and had these epic space battles that felt fast, cinematic, and real. And it also elevated lightsabers and blasters and TIE fighters, and of course, Darth Vader's breathing. And more importantly, it helped create the modern movie franchise model where a movie could become a whole universe of things like sequels and stories and merchandise and fandom. But for me, as much as Star Wars was a technical breakthrough, that's not the real it today. We remember it because of the fabulous characters. All right, these are the household names that we all know and love. There is Luke, right? The young hero who made the impossible shot. We had Han Solo, the skeptic, who became a true believer of the Force and the rebellion movement. We had Obi-Wan Kenobi, the old wise sage who shaped the journey before the final battle even happened. And then there's Princess Leia, right? The leader of the rebellion. She carried the whole mission, and she influenced the strategy, and she kept the movement alive. And of course, there's Darth Vader, who's the blocker, the hidden influence, the person who really changed everything. And so it's really Star Wars was about the individual people changing the outcome of the entire galaxy. And just like Star Wars, how it's ultimately about these characters, B2B marketing is shifting from targeting accounts to understanding the people, the characters, who actually shape a deal. And that's the transformation that we're here to talk about. And just like how Star Wars has an opening crawl, we have our own opening crawl. A long time ago, in a funnel far, far away, B2B marketers believed that accounts were enough. But across the galaxy, buying groups were forming in secret. And so that's the premise of our conversation today. The premise that the buyer has changed. And we're seeing a shift from accounts to people, the contact level shift within the context of buying groups. You see, for years, we've always thought our buyer is this, the lowly MQL, right? The single individual, the single lead that we thought were making the decisions. And our systems and processes have been built for this. But we all know that the lead-centric demand process doesn't work anymore because the systems show buyers as this, what you see on the left, individual people, individual leads. And we know from our research that it hasn't worked. Less than 1% of MQLs convert into active pipeline. And we also know that typically there's only one, or in our case, less than one, like half a person, according to our research, is the number of people associated to opportunities. In reality, what you see is happening on the right-hand side of the slide, which is that buyers are really like buying groups, and they've been buying like this for a long time. We just finally have the tools and the data to support and target buying groups. Our research shows that up to 92% of B2B buying decisions have at least 2 buying group members, and they serve a number of roles. Some of them are champions, some of them are decision makers, some of them are influencers, some of them are end users, and some of them are ratifiers. And so we need to move beyond leads and accounts and make this shift towards buying groups. What you see on the left-hand side is the rise of marketing automation platforms. When they came on the scene, they were focused and oriented around leads. And we all know that that's the wrong orientation. It's too narrow of a view. We know that no single individual person has made an enterprise decision by him or herself. And then over on the right-hand side, you have accounts. With the rise of ABM platforms, they were oriented around accounts. But that also is the wrong orientation. That's too broad of a view. We can sell more than one thing into an account. There's different subsidiaries, divisions, geographies, business units. The list goes on. So we know that the Goldilocks sweet spot is buying groups. And buying groups evaluate opportunities within accounts. And that's the transformation and shift that we want to see. So next, I want to talk about the MQL myths. There's a myth that the MQL is the buyer. The reality is that B2B buying decisions are made by a buying group. There's also a myth that an MQL is qualified, when in fact, at best, an MQL is an indication of interest. And then an MQL is a strong indicator of propensity to buy, which is a myth, when in fact, there is no correlation that exists between MQL engagement and propensity to buy. Rather, the first MQL from an account is all that's needed, when in reality, buying groups provide much better insight and predictive propensity to buy. The other myth is that one MQL represents one deal, when in fact we know that multiple people are part of a buying group. And finally, the myth that MQL volume and marketing source pipeline are a good basis for measurement, well, that's a myth. In reality, we need to change the focus to buying group engagement and interactions. And so when we think about who a target audience is, right, and why there's this focus on buying group obsession, we need to understand who our customer is. And in this diagram, I usually use the analogy of nested Russian dolls, but in sticking with the theme, these are more like nested nested planets or Death Stars, where the outer layer, all right, is the market, right? This is the market in which you serve and target. The next layer is the accounts, right? The accounts that are part of your total addressable market. This is where the buying entity starts, right? Where the contractual relationship exists. But then within the accounts are multiple buying groups, right? And again, buying groups are formed to evaluate opportunities. So it's a collection of personas that are involved in this process of evaluation. And then finally, there's the persona that are personas that make up a buying group. And that's the actual individual buying group member that's characterized by their job role and their role within that buying group. And that's what we want to talk about today, is the buying group and the personas that make up that buying group, not the individual leads. And so when we think about intent signals have always been centered around the account. But we need to make this shift from account level to contact level in order to make intent data much more actionable. Because if you just have account-centric intent data, like if you know that IBM is coming to your website, what do you do with that, right? Whereas if you actually know that Leah, Luke, and Han are actually coming to your website, well, that's actually a lot more actionable, right? And so we need to make this shift from accounts to buying groups and then ultimately to contact-centric intent in the context of buying groups. And so when we actually look at the shift to buying groups, with our client base at Forrester, we're seeing a huge movement in efficiency. Here is a slide that shows theoretically how a shift to buying groups can move the needle in a very significant and meaningful way for you. Our clients are seeing a transition to buying groups that results in much higher processing and performance, because you're serving up multiple contacts per opportunity instead of a single individual. And so my analogy is you're serving up 6 packs of beer versus a single can of beer. And that's why you're seeing this huge shift in efficiency in performance. And so when we return to our friends that we all know and love from Star Wars, right, they actually can represent a buying group in themselves in the Star Wars universe, where Luke, he's the champion, right? He's the one who's wondering, well, will the solution meet our needs? Then there's Han. He's the ratifier. He's trying to understand the total cost of ownership. Can we get it cheaper? And if you recall the scene in the cantina where he's negotiating the rate for the Millennium Falcon, right? So he's always trying to figure out the cost because he's got the price tag on his head. And then there's Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? He's the influencer. He's wondering, is it stable? Is it reliant? Is it efficient? And then there's Leia, who is the decision maker. She's the leader of the Rebel Alliance, and she's wondering, what is the business value? Is this the right decision? And then there's the end user, and Chewie can be that end user if they're, for example, evaluating things like bowcasters. He's wondering, will it help me do my job better, right? And so if you reimagine our Star Wars friends as the buying group, they all have important roles within the movie, right? As they go about the whole plot of the movie. And so with that, I will pass it to Doug to take over.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelvin. I was sitting there just like following along and soaking it all in. And I had to remind myself I've got slides to do. So thanks for that. So sticking with our movie theme here, what I want to do is take a few of our heroes, the Rebel Alliance, and illustrate the dangers, if you will, the hazards of orchestrating right now at the account level. So we have Leia, we've got Luke, and we've got Han. And things start off with Leia downloading a Forrester report, which is always a good call. I'm not sure who authored that one, Kelvin, but seems like a good one to download. Nice to see that happen. Then we go to Luke, and he takes to LinkedIn. He's going to check in with his network. He's had a recent issue with GTM orchestration. I can't see the poll questions right now, but I'm sure some of you are probably sharing the dark side here that Luke is experiencing. I'm sure he's going to get a reaction from his network for this. And then we've got Han, who's looking at the pricing page, which fits nicely because, Kelvin, you just mentioned the cantina scene where he's negotiating a price. And 8 minutes on a pricing page is pretty long. If I did 8 minutes of silence on this webinar right now, it would feel like an eternity. So some decent signals here. But again, at the account level, it's all looking very, very well and good, very clean. There's awareness. They've all got consideration. And now it's time for the decision phase where we'd say, hey, send it to sales. And this is a done deal. Everyone, I'm sure, is shaking their head going, yep, Doug makes a lot of sense here. But what we need to keep in mind is, again, what Kelvin was saying, it's not accounts that are doing the buying. It's the people within the accounts. So with this approach, what's actually happening? So Leia and Luke, they're both getting messages from an AI SDR, right? And they're very different approaches, but they're getting the same outreach. And Luke doesn't look happy about it. Leia doesn't look either. And then Han, boy, talk about an unhappy face. He's getting messages about security, but he only cares about pricing. Like what's going on? Like, I mean, Han's taking people back and keeping them safe, but it's not what he's involved in. And then there's Chewie, which I'm not going to do the Chewie screaming, crying voice, although I should try. We'll see. But no one's even talking to Chewie, right? He's also a part of this. And what this gets at is that orchestration, when people think about it, is just a workflow ran. And if the workflow is running, it's on the account level, this is what we're thinking. But it only works when it reflects each buyer's context. But up until now, we feel like the technology just hasn't been precise enough, which is why I'm excited to introduce and pass the proverbial ball over to Dimitri, who's going to walk through some of the challenges that we see illustrated here in the account level approach to orchestration, and how a contact level approach can solve some of those challenges.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so well, I think when we designed our solution to contact level orchestration, we tried to address 3 key problems that contact level information can solve, that account level programs would not be able to solve. So, and the first one is timing. And speaking about my journey with Star Wars, it's interesting how the timing of this movie was very well timed for my personal life journey. I watched episodes 4, 5, 6 as a kid, and then and that was heroic movie, as you guys know. It was like very good, like great story for a boy. And then I watched the episodes 1 to 3, which are more dramatic, kind of I think questioning the whole nature of like good and evil. When I was a teenager, and I think this kind of, and this like, as you guys know, this kind of, it went in opposite direction in terms of timing of the story, but fit very well for my life journey. So I think timing is very critical, and I think this is the first problem we try to address with contact level orchestration approach. And then, like, I think the question is why you, like, when you ran traditional IBM programs, what happened? Why you couldn't just reach out to Chewy from the day one when we detected intent? It's like, let's do it. It should work. It should be, that would be the best experience, the best decision to be made. The problem is that when you run account level program, you don't know it was Chewy, right? So and ultimately the playbook that traditional IBM vendors came up, and I think that was a good solution of the technology that was available. The idea is that, okay, you want to wait until intent score goes up and engagement score goes up for the account before you try to reach out to anyone, simply because you don't know who to reach out to, right? So you want to know exactly who is engaging. And if you don't know, then, like, you just wait until there's enough volume of signals coming from this account, and then, the chances you'll be able to hit the right person. But as you know, it's too late. By that moment, Chewy, has made his decision, and it was kind of late. So I think for contact level, and this is very important, when you execute contact level account-based marketing program, don't fall into this trap, and don't try for account scores to go up before you act on those signals, because like when the signal is detected, we have very limited time frame, very limited moment when this person has strong interest, they're doing their research, or they're interested in a specific topic. Now is the time to act on this and try to connect to this person to their needs right now. And this is a very critical context. And like the second problem that we want to address is personalization, which is also very important. And normally when you get account level signals, you don't know what is relevant for this or that buyer in the buying group. And with contact level information, because we have signals that tell who is engaging or who has intent, and what kind of intent they have, and where it's coming from, that provides very critical context for any attempt to connect, for any sales outreach. So instead of just, like as I think everyone experiences these days, is like you receive a lot of emails from cold emails from people who are trying to prospect you, and it all defaulted to personalization to the level of knowing who you are, right? So it's like I got a couple of emails over the last week, simply with a simple message, "Hey, I know you are, Influ2 CEO. Let's talk." And obviously, it does not connect to any of my problems. If we detected intent about a person who was interested in some specific topic by reading some content, or they were searching for specific keywords in Google, or they clicked an ad, this is a very important signal that you can use to connect. And instead of saying, "Hey, I know you're CEO of this company," you can say, "Okay, you're like, let's talk about the specific topic you're interested in." And that's a real personalization people are actually expecting and looking forward to. And then, I think the big shift that we expect, IBM practitioners to make is it is not only for sales development people. It's not only for SDRs to use this context to make their outreach, relevant, and being it cold calling or emails or LinkedIn messages. Actually, a lot can be done on the marketing side as well, right? So all the signals can be used to the marketing side, and I think the most obvious use of those signals is to provide personalized advertising, targeting buyers' interest, right? And in this case, the fact we know the person is looking for contact level intent provides a very good context and good orchestration opportunity to provide ads about contact level intent, right? So I think intent signals are not only for sales development or salespeople; it's also a very strong way to improve the personalization of the marketing program. And finally, the third component is measurement, and I think we see a lot of customers who became our customers simply because they were not able to prove value of the IBM programs they ran. And I think the reason is very simple is, the fact you have a lot of intent signals or you engage an account is not strong enough to prove you have actual influence over the successful deal happening, or it also kind of provides very, very strong, pushback from the leadership team, sales team, in terms of what's your contribution. You don't even know who is engaging you and what is going on with this account. It's all sales job done successfully. So yeah, I think when it comes to contact level execution of IBM programs, you know much more, you have much more data, and this conversation becomes much more friendly from both sides, and it's much better aligned. And because you know who is engaging, you know who has intent, and you know who you engage with your advertising, you can trace this buyer journey just like we all traced Luke from being a boy to becoming a Jedi. And this heroic journey you can trace for every buyer you track intent with, and you engage with advertising, and then it is also connected to sales process. So you know how cold prospect becomes warm prospect, and then how this warm prospect becomes raise the interest, and it allows sales development people to connect to them, book meeting, and then how it ultimately progresses to a successful deal. So more data, more precise data provides a lot of value in terms of understanding of what marketing contribution was to the success of the deal. And obviously you want to see this on the buying group level. So as in this example of screenshot, you can see multiple buyers, and you know exactly, you have information about engagement and intent from both marketing and salespeople. So what marketing and sales teams did, and obviously it provides much better understanding of marketing contribution to success of the deal.
Thank you, Dima. I'm going to talk next about adaptive orchestration based on what you just talked about. What I'm sharing now is the Forrester Adaptive Program Execution Framework. And this framework was designed to help you think through how to take these signals that Dima just talked about, these contact intent level signals, and activate them to personalize a much better targeted experience for your buyers. This framework has three components, as you can see. There's define, there's deliver, and then there's optimize. Now, there are these strips that you'll see that circle around all three phases. These are labeled signals. And there are many signals out there. Intent is one of those. It's a very important signal. And that's what Dima was talking about. And so you want to leverage these signals in all three phases. The first phase is define. That's the target phase, how you define your audience. And you can do it at the account level, like many of you guys are from an account-based perspective. But you can also do it at a buying group level, which is the next phase down, and that's the transformation and where the shift is headed. And then within that buying group, you can do it on the contact individual level based on the role within the buying group. So that's the level of transformation we're talking about. The next phase is the deliver, which is what we're actually going to double click on in the context of this presentation. The deliver is how you deliver a consistent and integrated and personalized experience across delivery mechanisms, the asset type, and the themes. And then finally, there's the optimize phase, which is how you measure your programs, and then how you evaluate them based on how the programs are performing, how you determine the next best offer, and how you optimize through A/B testing or multivariate testing. But like I said, we're only going to focus on this middle phase, which is the deliver phase, because that's how you're going to leverage the intent data and deliver a much personalized experience. So if we to double click to that second phase, you can deliver a better personalized experience across three dimensions. One is the message, understanding that the content needs to change based on the knowledge requirements of your different personas and buying group members. Like Dima said earlier, different people care about different topics. And so you need to adjust your content based on their needs and address the value statements based on the buyer needs. You also might need to adjust your tone and style based on how you speak to these people. Maybe you need to be more buttoned up when you're talking to a CFO versus an end user. Maybe you be a little more personalized when you're talking to a developer who might be more averse to marketing. And that's just an example. You also need to adjust your preferences. Adjust the timing, the cadence of your communication. Sometimes if someone's click happy and highly engaged, you want to contract the amount of marketing engagement you do, because the last thing you want to do is slow down a sales process, right? If they're highly engaged. So contracting the amount of time between marketing messages is appropriate. But sometimes if they're not engaging, hitting them up too often is probably not the right move. So you want to extend out the timing and communication. So adjust the pacing to match the response accordingly to their content consumption. And again, that's based on the signals that you'll be reacting to. And then there's the tactics, understanding that there are preferences for asset types. The offers, the call to actions can be based on individual needs. Again, different people care about different topics. And so Han might be a voracious reader. Chewy may not be so much of a voracious reader. Maybe he prefers videos, right? So need to understand asset preferences. The delivery mechanism, which is the channel, might also need to be personalized. So maybe Hand's more on LinkedIn and Chewy's more on Reddit. So understanding the preferences for the different personas that you're targeting also matters. Fish where the fish are swimming. So across messages, preferences, and tactics, those are 3 levers you can start to dial and adjust to cater your marketing communications to be much more personalized. So to wrap up, the key takeaways is may the right message find the right person. 3 things to take away with you. 1, find the people behind the account score. Understand that there's another level, another layer beyond just the account level intent. Identify which contacts are engaging, what they care about, and what role they may play in the buying group, whether it's champion, end user, ratifier, what have you. Number 2, adaptively orchestrate based on buyer context, not program assumptions. Use contact level signals to personalize that next best message, next best channel, and sales action. And then number 3, measure influence at the individual level. Prove which touch points reach the right stakeholders and help move the opportunity forward. Start to measure things that actually matter, like buying group engagement and buying group coverage, and not the lowly MQL. And with that, I'll turn it back to Doug.
Yeah, thanks, Kelvin. The fun part, and I can see in the chat here, Bcash, yes, you'll be able to get the recording, and the slides will probably be available as well. So we'll make sure to get that over for you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Hopefully, this was well worth your time. We appreciate you spending it with us, and hopefully we had some fun too. So let's continue to have the fun. If you've made it this far, we gathered all your names and we randomized it. Trust me, it won't be William Mady, my brother, getting this. We'd be thrown out of this webinar right away. But the team is sending me the name now, and it is Lisa Lisa? Oh, there it is. It's up on the screen. Amazing work. Lisa, thank you for joining. Everyone else, thank you for joining as well. But congratulations, Lisa. Hopefully this keeps you busy. I don't know, maybe you've got a child and you want to keep them busy for the entirety of summer, because putting together the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy, Lego by Lego, should take some time. That's super cool. But congrats, Lisa. Thanks everyone for joining. One final slide here, and a thank you to our presenters, Dima and Kelvin G from Forrester. If you have your camera out and you want to use that QR code, we have a report that we did with Forrester, which was published right at the end of last year, looking at the state of contact level ABM. It's definitely worth the download, definitely worth a read. With that, we're all done. Thank you so much. May the force be with you all.